Alrighty, we are here with Katie Thomson, co-founder and CEO of Square Baby, who manufactures babies that have right angle. No, I'm just kidding. That was just awful, but really really cool company in the baby food and baby meal space, we'll call it, and beyond. Katie, thank you so much for joining. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, of course. And yeah, thank you again for coming on because otherwise this wouldn't be possible. But we're gonna get to all things Square Baby, but before that, we're gonna get to Starbucks Baby, which sounds like a single. Now we'll get to Starbucks. You were the first ever nutritionist, which
Yeah,
I can't pronounce, nutritionist
you're
at
killing it.
Starbucks. Thank you. I try. There's a lot of S's and T's, but how does one become the first ever nutritionist at Starbucks or Starbucks, as people say?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, first, I got my master's in nutrition at the University of Washington. Really thought that I would land myself in more of a clinical role, but had this opportunity for a 3-week contractor role at Starbucks. It just turns out that the CEO had committed to having nutrition information on their website for the first time. Their first like nutrition brochures. This is way back in 20 years ago, 2004. Wow, that dates me. And so I turned that
Remember
three
it
week
like it was
contract.
yesterday.
I know, honestly. I turned that 3-week contractor role into a 6-year job there, really showing the team what a dietitian could do, beyond crunching the numbers and telling them how many calories were in each, iteration of beverages and sizes and pumps of syrups. So took a more strategic role on at the company and had the ride of a lifetime.
A high energy work environment. What was it like? I know you did so many things there. What's an aspect of your time at Starbucks? I'll just say that the entire time, and then you'll jump off. But that you're most proud of.
I think I realized the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that I had. I've always been a very passionate person, so no one will ever say I'm not passionate about the things that I'm doing. I think that passion really helped me to drive new initiatives through a very big company. And then I think eventually that's sort of what gave me the guts to start Square Baby. But as I mentioned, going from a dietitian that was working more so on the quality assurance side and in charge of the nutrition facts panels and really more so the data. As I started taking on a more strategic role in the company, it was creating the first ingredient standards. So across, not only nationally but internationally, removing artificial flavors and colors. This impacted hundreds of products, so this was no small feat. But to kind of put together the business case for cleaning up the ingredients, offering healthier options, removing trans fats, these kinds of things that had a major impact on a very large company. But I think they understood that this wasn't just a dietitian coming in, with their dietitian hat on, but also thinking about the consumer and thinking about the trends and understanding the business opportunity in making these right decisions. So I think I was really proud of being such a young dietitian and having this be my first job out of grad school, thinking, first of all, holy smokes, anybody could have had I felt highly underqualified for so many reasons because you're just, so young and so green. But I think it was the energy and passion and drive to make big changes. We were able to do some great things.
That's the most incredible, iconic branding pun I've ever heard. So green. That
Oh,
you are
it's
just
great.
Starbucks to the core.
It's true.
But yeah, it really sounds like the ride of a lifetime, as you said. Like working at such a global, iconic company. I almost said economic
Mhm.
company, but that to a sense as well. But how do you break into that culture? And you're entering a brand that's so well known, omnipresent, omnipotent. We've had a debate about that in previous episodes. How do you step into like a brand new role there?
That's really interesting. I think, it was a stepwise approach, right? So it wasn't just all of a sudden, this young dietitian's coming in and going to, give them strategic advice on new products and, potential M&A opportunities, or, what their retail assortment should look like, and really some very big ideas and strategies. But it was more so showing them what I was capable of, becoming the subject matter expert within the building on nutrition. And there were definitely, I couldn't have done this without the support of some key executives who really believed in health and wellness, and the opportunity, that Starbucks needed to take hold of this from a brand perspective. But also just, it being the right thing to do, but what our customers were expecting of us. So, trickling down to that being, a strategic business decision. But what was really interesting was thinking about, on such a scale, even if you make really small changes, they can be really, really meaningful at such a large scale, right? So, for example, we changed the default milk from a latte, right? If you just went up to the counter and said, I'd like a latte, it used to be whole milk. And we changed the default milk to 2%. So this was great from a saturated fat and calories perspective. It also actually improved their costs, their margins, because the 2% milk was actually cheaper than whole milk, right? And during this time, because we knew we were getting the savings on the 2% milk, we also argued to require all of our milk producers to become RBST free. So, because Starbucks is one of the largest, if not the largest, purchaser of milk in the country, we helped to change the milk supply, because now these farmers and producers of milk were changing to meet Starbucks standards, but it had a trickle down effect, across the country. So, really cool thing to be a part of.
Did you say RBST free?
Oh, yes. So this is the it's a growth hormone. So 20 years ago, this was a major part. So now this is much more, in the normal, that our milk would be made from cows not treated with RBST growth hormone. So it was thinking about, again, how can we use our scale for good, but also making sure that from a business perspective, it was something I could sell, to the other business owners in the building.
I appreciate your attention to the RESPECT. That's really kind of you. But shout out
Oh,
my wife Dana, who is a diehard Starbucks fan, and she actually goes with everything she gets that has milk in it. She goes with non-fat or skim milk, so she'll appreciate your lowering of the percentage, the
yeah.
percentages there.
I love that. Well, I helped to bring her the skinny latte. So I don't know if she's a skinny latte gal, but that was it's so funny. But you think about when people go up to the line at Starbucks and they're thinking about their order, we would call it line anxiety, because they would go up to the counter and they'd say, I want a non-fat, no whip, you know, 180 degrees, two pump, da da da, vanilla, whatever, right? And it was like they felt like they had so many things that they had to call out. So the skinny latte was the solution for those that wanted to have that, non-fat, no whip, sugar free. Silly, but
Perfect.
I don't know.
New acronyms and new terms all around. And yeah, I know she rocks the cold brew and
That's my
iced
favorite.
coffee as well.
Mhm.
So let's get a bit more of a shape that has the same length, sides, and angle. This is a geometry lesson. Let's get to Square Baby. So,
You got
really, just really, really cool branding and company and niche and any sort of buzzword you want there. But I think it's awesome, the space that you step into and like really establish yourself, further in. Uh, Before we get to like the specific business, what is it about nutrition and being a dietitian? What is it about all this stuff that like at some point in your life you just kind of latch into? Like as you said, I am passionate about this stuff.
Mhm. I've always been, yeah, an athlete growing up and interested in nutrition. Actually, thought I would be a pediatrician, so did a lot of volunteering during college. Did the pre med route in undergrad, and then decided to take on more of a focus of nutrition. So that's when I got my master's degree there. I just think it's like, it's so cliche, right? But if you find a job or a career and the thing that you're most passionate about learning about, reading about, talking about, helping with, you know, you'll never have to work a day in your life, right? So it's, which is not true as an entrepreneur, but I just think it's follow what your true passions are, because that's where you're gonna have the most energy to persevere.
And here you are, you haven't worked a day in your life, and here you are on an entrepreneurship podcast. And no, but so that's kind of like the interest, the passion from that standpoint. But what was the insight in terms of babies and what
Yeah.
babies are
Yeah.
actually consuming?
So I thought when I landed this job at Starbucks, I wasn't going anywhere. I mean, this was a dream career. I was learning and growing so much. But 2008, had my first baby, cruised the baby food aisle, and then essentially was like, what WTF with the baby food aisle? Why is no company helping me out? This is, if I have a master's in nutrition and I find this shopping moment to be overwhelming to understand, how do I know that he's gotten enough veggies and protein in a day? And what's really in this jar or this pouch? I felt like I had to, to I don't know, dig into every product's ingredient statement to kind of better understand and do all of this research. And I thought, first of all, this is super overwhelming, and what a critical, important nutritional milestone in their lives. And it seemed as though, the leading players were just sort of phoning it in, right? For decades, it was just Earth's Best and Gerber and the peas and carrots and the turkey dinner, and it was fine. You either made your own baby food or you took the convenience of that baby food. And while I was working full time, I was basically leaving the house at 7 and getting home at 6. My baby went to bed at like 7 p.m. Like, I did not have the time to be making my own baby food, nor would I want to, even though I enjoy cooking so much, that's not the way I wanted to spend my spare time, very often at least. So I really wanted to create a solution for parents. So that's where this fire started in me. And in 2010, I left Starbucks to set out and solve what this solution for parents would look like.
So that can you walk us through like what goes through your mind, like what emotions you're feeling when you actually like step away from the place that you thought for a time you're going to spend like your whole career at?
Oh God. First of all, I've never been asked that question, so I love it. Um,
Oh, no, thank you.
yeah, of course you're thinking I must be crazy. And I left so 2010, May, um, the stock price was down below $10.
Because you
Um,
left.
and
Just kidding.
yes, because I left. I know the news got out and this whole it was just this whole thing. It's like I actually created this entire economic downturn, felt
Right.
across the globe. Um, but just financially, as a young family, this was a crazy decision. I was about to vest my fourth, into my fourth year, of stock, and I mean, none of it made sense for a lot of reasons, but it made all of the sense for where my passion lied and what I felt very compelled to do. And even sometimes I sort of wish that fire would go, like, just kind of like leave me alone, like let me just go on and have a steady job with insurance and a great paycheck, and just you know, clock in, clock out, and have a bit more of a stable, known entity. But that's not where every part of my being was telling me to go. So yeah, certainly it was nuts. But I will say, having the support of my husband, who has been behind me every moment of this, helps a lot with Square Baby. His career has been in advertising, so he's a writer and campaign developer by trade. So he's done Super Bowl commercials and all that kind of stuff. But together we have really built this company with our bare hands. And so without the security of being able to do so with you know, his paycheck and his insurance, there's no way we could have pulled this off. So certainly it's like, who walks away from, the nutritionist at Starbucks role. But I just knew I had to give it a try.
Yeah, and that's I don't want to throw this in your face, but when I was nutritionist at Starbucks, I was there for decades, so I had a
Yeah,
lot more staying power.
I know.
Now, you said I think your motto could be "Don't be there, be square," because you went square after
Mhm.
that. And here we are with geometry again. Shout out the Pythagorean theorem. Anyway,
Nice one.
thank you. Uh, A squared plus B squared equals C squared for those watching at home. But Square Baby, I mean, as I hinted at before, like it's beautiful branding. The packaging is beautiful. All the different colors, like it's like just a wonderful like
Mhm,
rainbow feel you get from your foods and from the branding there. How
mhm.
did that start to come to life? Like once you decided to focus in this baby space?
Yeah. So the reason behind Square Baby and Square Foods is that one of my biggest pain points with the baby food aisle was that so many of the products, especially as the new pouches started to come on the market around 2008, 9, 10, we started to see a lot more fruit heavy, unbalanced, and misleadingly marketed meals. So there's, obviously no problem with fruits, with apples, etc. But when you feel as though as a parent you're choosing a meal that has all these healthy fats and veggies and protein and looks balanced based on the marketing of the product, you're doing that parent and the baby a disservice by actually having it be very, very fruit heavy and sweet. And in fact, I found that many of the pouches have more sugar per ounce than a can of Coca Cola. So again, not that fruit's bad. It's just a matter of if we're training these little palates in their first bites to grow up to be an adventurous eater, we cannot be drowning out every taste they have with these, uber sweet fruits. So, um, what I did from a solution perspective, so why Square Baby, why Square Foods, and how was I going to solve it? It's that I wanted to take the guesswork out of giving your baby the right amount of the right foods, to help them grow up. So I looked at the recommendations from WIC and the Academy of Pediatrics and USDA and created a 100% daily nutrition meal system. So where every meal is square and balanced. And in fact, every meal is veggie forward, veggie first. But together ladder up to 100% daily nutrition. So that means any two of our meals for a 6 to 8 month old or any three for an 8 to 12 month old is 100% of their daily recommended veggies, fruits, grains, and protein. So that promise behind Square was about balance, and really the word came from my grandma would always say, "Have 3 square meals a day." It was it's one of those little mantras she would always talk about, eating balanced and having your 3 square meals. So everything about Square Baby is rooted in nutrition science. We've done the research. We have nerded out. We've taken all of the guesswork out of this for parents, so they can just trust that we've done this according to what the research and the Academy of Pediatrics are recommending. Then from a brand perspective on the color, so of course when you're starting to develop what's the look and feel, the tone, the voice of your brand, it's very easy to go towards pastels. It's very trendy, and I feel like the teals and things like that were really trendy 5 years ago when we were launching Square Baby. But for me, it was all about the color of the food. And in fact, we have this great picture of our purees lined up in our square containers that looks just like our logo, because we have puree, Harvest Feast, and mango coconut chicken that look just like the orange S in our logo. And our beet berry looks like the red Q. Anyway, so because really food should look good, should taste good, and we should just celebrate, real, whole, nutritious foods. And because our meals aren't, they're not shelf stable, right? So there's no heat pasteurization. They're instead cold pressed, right? So just like you think about the cold pressed juices and many hummuses and guacamoles that are on the market, um, our meals remain, fresh in color and taste and flavor and texture because we don't overly heat them. So we like to celebrate the color of real food.
And you missed out on the pastels because I'm somebody I live in a vineyard vine store. You can't get me out of there. So no, I'm just kidding. I'm like the opposite. But no, no, it's your food has a beautiful color scheme. On that note, the different varieties, like the different meals you have, how what has that process been like in making sure that, one, you come up with multiple varieties, but two, making
Mhm.
sure that like they actually taste delicious, and it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt that they look pretty cool as well.
Yeah. Yeah. There definitely was a lot of thought. So when I developed the square meal system, that's basically this big mathematical equation of how do
More
we make
math,
sure that
honors
so much
geo coming up big here.
I know. My son would be proud, my freshman. Yeah, the one who inspired this company, who's now driving and much taller than me, which is amazing.
That's a story for
But
another time.
right. Um, yeah, so this we knew that every meal needed to fit within this square meal system. So there's some math behind that, thinking about their servings of fruits, veggies, grains, protein. We utilize healthy fats and herbs and spices as well. So there's sort of the making sure that it delivers on that nutrition promise, and being veggie forward as well. Then there's the variety of proteins. So we didn't want to be just vegan or just vegetarian or just animal proteins. We wanted to offer options for every family. So we have A, B, and C meals that have A meals have yogurt protein and are vegetarian. B meals have plant protein and are vegan. And C meals have an animal protein like chicken bone broth or egg or salmon. So that's part of this like interchangeable meal system that, because we're a subscription based service that kind of walks a customer through this journey of helping them to customize the box that's perfect for their baby's age and stage and dietary restrictions. We wanted to make it as easy as possible to filter through the products that are right for their baby's age and stage, as I was mentioning. But also, if they know their baby's dairy free, it's like, great, just choose B and C meals. We got you. We don't want them to have to read every ingredient statement or, you know, spend all this time on our website. It should be something that is seamless and foolproof, and just a good experience. So then oh gosh, I wish at some point I need to dig up a picture of me with a big presentation board, and every meal had its own sticky note. And I tried to get all these different color sticky notes so I could visually see. First of all, I created 50 recipes that work within the system. And when we launched, I had to pick 20. So that was really, it's like picking your 20 favorite children. It was really hard. So I,
That would
I
be a
visually
very
wanted to
full
make sure that
household.
I know. We could have had our own television show. Um, but so I visually wanted to make sure that the menu had variety, right? So we have all the different colors because we talk about eating the rainbow and what that means from a nutrition perspective, that different foods with different colors bring different nutrients. And then that flavor and texture perspective. So just making sure we have variety. And then lastly, we kind of take it one step further and we tried to think about the other pain points that we had as new parents when you come home from your first pediatrician appointment and they say, or your like 6 to 9 month old pediatrician appointment, they test your baby for iron. And this is really stressful moment when they're like, oh, well, your baby's low in iron because their natural stores have depleted. And now you're here trying to figure out how you're going to solve this. So we have other filters on our website. So products that have iron and vitamin C to help absorb the iron so that they can really filter through and look for products that meet their needs. So a lot of layers of thought went into those first 20 meals.
Uh, Iron, isn't the solve for iron just, send your baby to the weight room, pump an iron,
Yeah,
like that's what
totally.
you're, yeah. Okay, perfect. All right. Eh, so, what made the difference for you in like those 20 options and now like whatever your exact number of varieties that you
Yeah.
have today? Like what made those rise to the top? Your favorite children?
um, like I said, I think a big part of that was the color, the variety, like which 20 gave me the most ingredients too. So we don't have a bunch, everyone's got green beans or quinoa in it. But that with those 20 meals, we felt like we could usher a parent through their very first bites to when they're ready to transition to solid, to more like finger foods and table foods. So, really simple, smooth texture, a little bit thinner for their first bites, and then kind of gradually going towards, chunkier and thicker textures, etc. So there were just a lot of layers of thought that went into those first 20, and which was made even harder when we scaled And then I had to pick 9 to start with. Brutal.
People use the analogy of having to pick your favorite children. Not many use the analogy of having to pick your favorite children of your favorite children. You took that
That's
to the
right.
next layer there. Where did you start to find customers and like a lot of customers for this? Because I mean, that's not easy
Mhm.
for anybody.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I told you I had this idea when my baby was first starting solids, left Starbucks in 2010, launched the company in 2018. So 8 years in between leaving my job and officially starting. Whole other podcast and 3 other episodes of what happened in those 8 years. But I think the good thing is the market evolved. So I think my idea of having fresh baby food and baby freezers and aisles many years ago would have been a lot more challenging because I don't think the customer base was there. I think the things that I was noticing as a dietitian now every not every mom, most moms are really noticing, the high sugar, the fact that they want to give their baby fresher meals versus the shelf stable meals, the protein options that just aren't on the market. And even now we have allergen introduction. So I won't bore you too much, but new research shows that you can actually help to prevent food allergies by introducing allergens as early as 4 to 6 months. And no other company was leaning into that research and giving parents an option to introduce tree nuts and egg and salmon and all of the 8 allergens. So that's another big differentiator for us. So how do we find them? So in the beginning, we were regional. So we were in a commercial kitchen. Kendall, my co-founder, and I made the first 100,000 meals by hand. We became an FDA approved food manufacturer. We made meals out of the Bay Area in a little certified organic kitchen. And it was an awesome period of the company because we were so close to the product that we knew, we were able to test on much smaller batches, right? So when we would go in, we would usually make 2 to 3 meals a day of the 2 to 3 flavors and 800 meals. We usually make around 350 of each meal. So it's not like you're going in there and making 10 or 25 or even 50,000, which is what you're going to look at for minimum order quantities at a co-manufacturer. You can't really make many adjustments when now you have to go sell 25,000 of whatever you just made. So we really spent the first 3 years being hyper focused on iterating on product as well as customer. So looking at best way to attract that customer, to retain that customer. We did some Facebook and Google ads to start, but because we had such a small production, honestly, we would have to turn marketing off pretty quickly because we couldn't keep up with the demand. So in that commercial kitchen, it was, we really had very, very strong retention. So we had like 79% retention. Our customers, once they found us, loved us, stayed with us, spent a lot with us because, we made sure that we didn't grow for growth's sake and we didn't grow too fast, that we were really focused on operational excellence at each stage. So um, you know, making sure that, for example, it's a frozen meal. We ship in a compostable cooler box with dry ice. We need to make sure that the partner that we had from the very beginning knew exactly how to get those meals to their doorstep, 99.5% of the time frozen. So we really focused on making sure that our operations were sound and reliable, right? Because this is a really big decision that a parent's making. And if you fail because you won them on all of the marketing and getting them to make their first purchase, but then you failed them from a customer service and operations perspective, they're done. You've lost their trust that you've done the rest of it well. So we did a lot of farmers markets, parent big gatherings where hundreds of parents and parent groups. We actually had a storefront as well for the first 3 years. That was a great one-on-one interface with our customers. So we we still do all the customer service ourselves, Kendall and I. So we remain very, very close to our customer and what's important to them. But I think that's a big piece of it is understanding their struggles, understanding what's important to them, and just delivering.
My mind is blown because I didn't plan this, but we had a recent guest at the time of this recording, Camilla Opperman Morse, episode 281. I can remember these now when they're like within a few episodes ago. But anyway,
Mhm.
um, she has a cool company called Nimbus, and Nimbus Kitchens is
Mhm.
like a shared kitchen company. And so, like, I
Oh,
was
cool.
just learning about commercial kitchens and shared kitchens and
Mhm.
how valuable they are, especially for
Mhm.
businesses like yours. And it's so cool that like, this ties together of like how instrumental that was for you and Kendall in like the early
Yeah.
days of getting this off the ground. But also, my mind is
Mhm.
blown because how you said you made the first 100,000 meals by hand.
Oh my
How
gosh.
how did you do that and like sleep and live?
Well, we got a lot more efficient. I will say Kendall and I are a really awesome team. We could pretty much, we could probably go in there and not say a word to each other and know exactly what step to do. It's sort of like a dance, like making Thanksgiving, but on steroids, because just the amount of like things going on at once, from like sterilizing equipment to, okay, we've got this, steaming over here, it needs to steam to 100 and whatever degrees, then we need to mark it down for the FDA, and da, 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 da. And then it was nuts. I was in exceptional shape when I turned 40. That was a total win for me. Not so much anymore. And actually it took quite a toll, I will tell you. Physically, doing repetitive movements all the time. So filling things and lifting. So we would lift these like 50-pound things, like hotel pans that had steaming carrots with boiling water underneath, and you're just like, you're trying to go, move it. So you're all super tense, and these movements. My back was screwed up, my neck was screwed. Anyway, um, it's a whole long story, but it makes you really great. Like I said, when you're so close to your product, there's just a level of caring along this whole way. And I think it's because, it's not like we started this company because we were so determined to start a company or to be a CEO or to whatever. It was like we really wanted to solve for all these pain points that parents were having. And we also knew, knowing that it took me 8 years from leaving Starbucks and having this idea and trying to figure out what the idea was, and was it a recipe book, was it shelf stable, was it in a pouch, was it fresh and delivered, the square meal system, all the years of research and planning and business development, and modeling that went on. I knew that launching the company was a gift. Like, just getting to the starting line was such a huge. In fact, we opened the storefront on my 40th birthday. Um, and I remember my friends and family being like, "Is that what you want to do on your 40th? Is have a party for Square Baby? Like, don't you want to like go on this big trip?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is the greatest gift to have gotten to this point." So we just don't take any of it lightly.
So I'd love to switch gears a little bit, and if you're okay with it, geek out a
Yeah.
bit
Oh.
about taste and palate and
Hmm.
things that I know stuff when stuff tastes really good, but I'd
Yeah.
love to learn more about like the science behind it because you're an expert at that. Um, can you shed a little light on like I guess just a quick crash course on like how taste works? Like why is it different
Mhm.
things make our brain like light up with like wow that's delicious?
Well, first of all, I don't know if I'm gonna have the smartest answer to this, because I'm not a trained chef or a trained R&D person. However, I've worked a
I
lot.
think you're a trained if you make 100,000 meals of anything,
That's true.
while not talking to your business partner, I think it's
No,
I
we
think
did talk.
you're a trained chef.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think you learn a lot. I cook a lot at home too. So, some of this is just the food's got to taste good, right? So you're thinking about flavor combinations, you're thinking about the color combinations. So, for example, mango coconut chicken. Um, we have carrots as the number one ingredient there. Then I think you think about the fruits and veggies, sort of, or whatever the strongest flavor driver is going to be. Carrots sort of, kind of complement a lot of different things, right? And the mango, I did want some of that flavor because it's sort of an interesting tropical flavor to come through, especially because carrot is going to be a dominator there. But also, they're both orange, right? Duh. So knowing that you're not mixing all these different colors and end up with a whole bunch of brown foods, despite how how fresh they are, if you mix a whole bunch of different colors together, just like we learned when we were mixing paints and how to make the different colors, right? So some of it's is just as simple as that, but we do think about how herbs and spices can really lift the flavor, how even just a touch of lemon juice. So we started adding a touch of lemon, organic lemon, to our meals in the commercial kitchen, knowing that when we went to scale with a co-manufacturer, it's something that we would need to do from a pH perspective. So we didn't want the meals we made in the commercial kitchen to be, we wanted them to be as similar. And even we found that scaling with a co-man and commercializing our recipes, we found the meals to even improve. But so we started adding a touch of lemon. What we learned was that really brightened up and almost made the fruits taste sweeter, if that makes sense. They would sort of come through a bit more. So if we're not a fruit forward, fruit heavy brand like the rest of the baby foods, like how do you utilize herbs and spices, and because we don't do any salt, right, or any added sugar, of course, and other acids and healthy fats and things to make the meals as palatable as possible, but to kind of tweak the flavors. And I think just part of that is just getting in your kitchen with a blender and trying things out. But you don't have every lever, right? So you can't, like I said, you're not adding salt to something. And for us, we have these nutrition parameters with our 100% daily nutrition promise. So it's not like I can just say, oh, well, we're going to take this one ingredient way up or this one way down. We really wanted the balanced nutrition piece to remain true throughout all of our meals. So I don't know. It was tricky, I guess, but simple in the same way, right?
Tricky and simple. No, it sounds
Yeah.
super fun. Like that's so cool that like I see why you geek out about it. Like it's so fun that you get to test out these combinations as part of your job that you created. And it's always interesting. Like I find that it's just like when a restaurant goes like viral for having like a really buzzy dish. It's
Hmm.
always interesting to see what different flavors are complemented together, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Oh my god, I never thought of that." And it's usually like just 2 or 3 items that are like household items.
Yeah.
um I was looking at reservations earlier in
Mhm.
Hoboken, and there's a restaurant here that I think it's with their tuna tartare, they just serve it with
Mhm.
Pringles.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
like,
Seen
"Oh,
that
like
before.
Pringles,"
Mhm.
like,
Little salt.
yeah,
Mhm.
and now like people are paying big bucks for Pringles at
Mhm.
restaurants, so
I think the other piece of this is thinking about the way that we eat as adults, the way you want your baby to grow up to enjoy and be exposed to foods. We know that 4 to 7 months is a critical window where they're most susceptible to liking new flavors. So it's so important really early on to introduce them to earthy and bitter vegetables. So we have a lot of meals that do have a lot of thought towards what are the herbs and spices that we're introducing them to. We have apple rosemary lentils where you can really taste the rosemary. We have apple curry chicken where the curry is really present. And so when your baby transitions into table foods or your Thai takeout, they have now been exposed to the curries and beets and broccoli and just flavors beyond the peas and carrots and the sweet potatoes, but really kind of helping them grow to be an adventurous eater.
yeah, and thank you. Like I made a note. I wanted to circle back to that, and you did it for me. So thank you for being a fantastic guest and host. But that 4 to 7 month window, like that's just fascinating. Why is it that that time frame is so foundation? Like, do taste buds just like wake up then, basically?
That's a good question. I'm sure there's something more scientific that I'm not going to say well about that, specifically about that period, but I will say just anecdotally as a mom and feeding so many babies, but also watching my own kids go through this, I recognize how incredibly challenging it is for parents to turn around a picky eater. Or even, a baby or toddler that's been really adventurous can all of a sudden, because it's Tuesday, they decide they don't like blueberries. And they don't like this. My son Nolan decided for a whole year. He stayed with us for a whole year from like 18 months to 2.5. The kid would not touch a blueberry, but like the months before could take down a whole pint, right? So they start to food becomes something that they might struggle with because of texture preferences or avoidances, or it's a power struggle. It's something that they can say no to, and toddlers love to say no. And so it becomes this battle at mealtime with your little one. So it's so important that in these earlier stages where they're just trusting you and opening their mouth to whatever spoonful that you give them, that they might you might take 10 or 12 tries before they like it. That's the other part that many parents know, is that don't give up just because the first time they spit it out and turn their head. Keep going. But the same thing is true with a more independent 18-month-old or toddler, is that just because they have decided to put their foot down and not eat blueberries for a year, I kept putting him on his plate and he'd have to eat one, even if. So if I was serving blueberries at lunch, he would have to at least have one. And then I would make sure that the rest of his plate was, quote unquote, a winner for him. So he didn't, starve and not have the meal. But um, taking them through this journey of like introducing them to so many things in the beginning from a palate perspective, and then continuing on with that, it's just so helpful to help them set up good, healthy habits for life.
You're taking me back. It's so interesting how that works, and it's like at different stages of life too. Like I remember distinctly because you reminded me. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think I had like mustard, like any kind of mustard, maybe honey mustard, growing
Mhm.
up that often. And then at a certain point, um, I got tired of sandwiches that were, like mayo or Miracle Whip or
Mhm.
even PB&J. And my mom started putting mustard, just like regular yellow mustard, on my
Mhm.
sandwiches at lunch. This is like in high school. And
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh my god, I love mustard." Like, I want it all the time now. Like, I don't know. It's so interesting how that works, but it's really cool that you can have an impact on that,
It's true.
on your child's future tastes, in
Yeah.
such an early age, like you were talking
Yeah.
about.
Your tastes change even as an adult, right? So you keep trying. Keep trying that mustard.
And we're gonna keep trying with my corny questions. You ready to wrap it
Okay.
up with some rapid fire Q&A?
Oh God, help me. Yes.
That might be the best response I've heard yet. All right, let's get wild. Let's wrap up here.
Okay.
You live in Bend, Oregon,
Mhm.
which I've never
Correct.
been to. See what I did there?
Mhm.
But I know it's like I think it's always on those lists of like best places to live or best places to
Mhm.
visit, all those lists and everything like that. What's your absolute favorite hobby?
Mhm.
Besides building your square baby business, what's
Mhm.
your favorite hobby to do outside of work, in the Bend area and beyond?
Yeah, so I have to give you two answers because wintertime it's skiing. I grew up ski racing. My husband and I met ski racing when we were in high school. And so now to be able to live 25 minutes from the mountain and ski with our kids, they even ski as an elective. So they ski on weekdays for a few hours, which is just magical. So wintertime, it's mountain as much as possible. And the summertime, the river and the concerts here, it's nuts. Like floating the river, SUP, going to a concert. It's like we live in a vacation town and you are constantly wondering, like, hey, shouldn't you guys be inside working? Um, but
it,
really
it,
it's just so
it
so great to see everybody enjoy the city.
sounds like a terrible place to live.
Yes.
My wife and my brother-in-law, her brother, I don't know why I said it that way, grew up big ski racers as well. So I've learned a lot about the ski racing world
Yeah.
like that. There's a whole diehard community there, but
Yeah.
no, it's awesome that you can get, different seasons, so many perks there, and it's all a close
Hmm.
SUP from you. So that's great. Um, on the Oregon note, we love due to a recommendation from her uncle. We love the wine from Willamette, damn it, Willamette,
Mhm.
damn it Valley. Um, the Pinot Noir there.
Mhm.
What's the? Do you have like a town to recommend or like an area of
Oh,
Willamette that is like a
yes.
must visit for anybody who likes those grapes?
Yeah, so, do a little weekend in Dundee. So all McMinnville, Dundee
Ooh,
area, it's all really close to each other. There are some great little bed and breakfasts or VRBOs. It's like Napa quality wine and experiences without the Napa craziness. I lived in the Bay Area before moving to Bend, and so we would frequent to Napa. It was a really quick drive for us, and it just became a total zoo. But I love Oregon Pinots. There's some great Chardonnays. Yes, I'm a wine gal too. When um, yes, dietitian loves a good glass of wine.
exactly. It's great for the palate. We could go on about that. But and then on another organ note, I know that you've studied to various degrees, literally,
Yep.
at
Mhm.
Oregon and Washington. Where do your loyalties lie in the sports world for those?
I'm really glad have to have a more public moment to put my stake in the ground because everyone I know will know that I am a Duck. I am a diehard Oregon Duck
Quack, quack,
fan.
quack.
Oregon football time, watch out. And I was the gal who, when you go to graduate school, it's not like you're going to college; it's like going to work or a job. It's less fun, right? You're I was in the hospital setting most of the time. Everything's much harder with a lot less parties. But I would like hold my Oregon umbrella as walking to my UW classes in Seattle. I was such a jerk,
Did you
but very
ever
diehard.
did you ever wear like a crazy costume at the Otts, I don't know why I said that like that, at the Autzen
Oh,
Zoo? Isn't that what they call the football stadium?
awesome stadium. Not a costume, but I have really great shoes that I got. Oh gosh, they probably back like 1994. Good Lord. 30 years ago that I wear for every duck. And they look like Prefontaine OG running shoes. Like I've never seen them since. I probably, just bought them from Nike 30 years ago, but not a costume, but yeah, my cool little can only wear those shoes.
And then last one, oh, by the way, welcome to the Big Ten. The Pac-12 to Big Ten transition will be
No,
crazy for those schools. So
it's,
excited for the
yeah,
not excited for
has
the
some
long
good
flights
games.
between games, but yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Um, and then last one, you talked a lot about flavor or taste complements in terms of baby food. As an adult, what is your favorite combination of flavors that maybe is like a go-to recipe at home?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question too. Um, I don't know if I have a really good answer to that. First of all, I love hosting. I have people over all the time. I love making like a cash. We'll like totally nerd out and have like smoke on the barbecue for 12 hours or something and have people over. But a lot of times I love having people over just super last minute. And I'm actually really into making cocktails. Which I giggle again because dietitian who starts her day out with a cup of coffee and a bite of dark chocolate, first bites, and then usually is ending the day with some. But I love the mixing of the different bitters and the different flavors and finding the really unique liqueurs and things that make a cocktail really fun. Anyway, but I will tell you one of our tricks. So when we smoke pork on the smoker, and my husband always adds orange zest to
Mm,
that's probably a pretty traditional spice blend, but always adds squeezes of orange and orange zest, and it's a very, very good combination. So maybe I'm thinking citrus and saltier flavors go well together. I don't know. That was my best stab at
well,
that one.
yeah, it was a great stab, and it was a great zest, and it was a great way to bring it full circle, or a full square, should I say? Because
There
the
you go.
S in your logo is orange. So
That's
there we
right.
go. All right, now we'll finally bring the corniness to a close. Thanks for hanging in there again with all the geometry references. But Katie, thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast. Just really, really love your company and what you're all about. Uh, where is the best place for people if they want to get started with Square Baby to learn more, as well as if they want to connect with you online and maybe try out some orange zest pork?
That should be the next baby food, by the way. Squarebaby.com. So you can learn everything you need to know about our meals. You can reach out to us. At Square Baby Food is our Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are a small and mighty team. So if you reach out to customer service, you're gonna get me. So I, would love to hear from anyone. We are also always open to answering questions about nutrition and starting solids and our products. So we're here as a resource.
Perfect. And then last thing, final thoughts. Stage is yours.
Oh.
It could be a quote, words to live by, the name of your, slam dunk cocktail, whatever you want. Send us home here.
Okay, this is the first thing that came to mind because it's what I tell my kids every morning, and they have a little poster that's lines the steps as they come downstairs. It says, "Work hard and be nice to people." It's really simple, right? Just be a good human, work hard, do good things, be kind to people.
Bring on the bongos.